Hello friends, welcome. Friends, you already know that I have been following Satcom industry for a long period of time, both regulatory as well as business aspect. Now, recently the government of India announced that they will open up the satellite space for private participation and also has given LOI to companies like Starlink. Now, before that, before even the LOI was given, I had done a video on what kind of constraint under which Starlink or companies like Starlink will operate and what kind of pricing plans they can afford to offer to Indian consumer. And in one of the video which just did recently about Bangladesh, I pointed out that what kind of plans Starlink has offered in Bangladesh and what kind of plans probably that India will get if we draw parallels with Bangladesh, because Bangladesh is also a country where per capita income is low and Starlink could offer similar plans in India. But I saw many articles and even TV interviews and discussion in YouTube video talking about Satcom plans may come less than rupees 840 a month. Now, friends, I won't like to judge this headline because this ET headline, which has been done recently on 24th May, has been quoted in many dailies and people have been doing discussion in YouTube video. So friends, without even making any judgmental call about whether this plan or rupees 840 a month is going to be feasible or not, I would rely on my Excel sheet. Now friends, I am going to show you that what kind of constraint that Starlink will have to operate on if they have to offer a plan of rupees 840 per month for unlimited data. And if at all they offer unlimited data, what kind of revenues that they will generate, what kind of constraints that it has in order to operate a business in India. So guys, you just wait and watch this video and you yourself will be able to understand whether this plan of rupees 840 per month is even feasible. So just be with me and you will be able to understand this whole concept very clearly. And it will be very simple, friends. And you will understand without having to even know, what business case is all about. A layman will be able to understand that even this plan, that this talk about 840 rupees per month is even feasible. That is the point. And if they offer this plan, what kind of revenues that will generate, and we will play with numbers. And those numbers will be understood by even a layman, right? So without wasting any further time, I will go straight to my Excel sheet, which kind of gives you a very good idea as to what is going on. So this is the Excel sheet. Before I go and start playing with numbers, I will like to tell you that what is there in this Excel sheet. So we have an assumption box here. Can you see this? This is an assumption box. And then below is the numbers. We are going to work for each and every year starting from year 26 and to 36, right? So friends, before I start playing with the numbers, let me explain to you what is this sheet all about and what are these assumptions. So let's understand that first. Then only you will be able to appreciate that whether that 840 rupees per month ARPU is even feasible. So first thing, I have assumed that there will be a Starlink satellite growth on a year-on-year basis globally, right? So I have assumed that in year 2026, this number is 5,500 and 5,500. Now this number can be 6,000, 7,000. People are quoting different numbers because the satellites have a life of 5 years and they have to be decommissioned. So because they have been decommissioned, sometimes the numbers may double count, right? So I have taken a conservative number. I generally take a little bit of conservative number. And then I have grown this number over a period of time, and I am assuming that by 2036, the number of satellites which will be circling the globe, as far as Starlink is concerned, will be 12,000. Somebody may take 18,000, somebody may take 20,000, but looks to me that this is a feasible number because you can't roll out satellites in an unlimited fashion. There are a lot of constraints, availability of slots, frequency, you have to manage frequency, and then some satellites are going to get malfunction, you have to decommission them, and then there is a periodic decommission of every 5 years. So therefore, it is impossible to launch so many satellites because every 5 years, these satellites, for example, if there are only 5,500 satellites right now, this whole satellite, right, will get decommissioned after 5 years. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In 2031, this whole 5,500 satellites has to be decommissioned and new satellites have to be launched. So therefore, it is very difficult to maintain these number above the ground, right? So you understand now. Then the second assumption that I am making is that how many satellites are going to be visible on top of India, which I have already shown in one of the video. I am assuming it is going to be less than 1%. It is 0.8%. And you can go and check anywhere. You will find that this number is reasonably accurate. This number, which I have assumed, which is 0.8%, is reasonably accurate because today there are roughly around 40 satellites, which you can be visible on the surface of India. And then as you grow, as the number of satellite increases, this number will become more than double. So I am assuming 96 satellites are going to be available on top of India by 2026. So this is the second assumption, right? So let's understand this second assumption. Third assumption is that what is the throughput per satellite? Because like in terrestrial case, we have got every base station having a certain amount of spectrum will have certain throughput capability. Now, currently, the current generation Starlink satellites have a very lower throughput, but I am taking an average throughput of 80 Gbps. It can grow, it can be less, but to me, 80 Gbps capacity means a satellite is capable of driving 80 Gbps of throughput. So that 80 Gbps of throughput has to be shared among all the customers who will be in the footprint of that satellite. For example, there are 44 satellites. Every satellite will be driving 80 Gbps. So whole India, the whole continent of India, or the country of India, will be covered by 44 satellites, each having 80 Gbps of throughput, right? That is the third assumption. Then average download speed. What is the average download speed? Now, average download speed can vary. If you go to the Starlink website, you will see that they are showing 25 Mbps to 150 Mbps plus. Now, you will never get that kind of average download speed all the time. So I have taken an average download speed of 50 Mbps. You can increase it, you can decrease it depending upon what you feel, and we will play with this number. And in this business case to find out whether 840 rupees ARPU is feasible or not. Then there is one more assumption, which is called user concentration factor. Now, what does the user concentration factor mean? The user concentration factor means that, let's assume that we have a certain capacity, like I'll show you here. In year 2026, we have got 5,500 satellites. The number of satellites visible over India is 44. So total speed throughput on top of India is 3520 Gbps, right? So this is the. Now, if you assume that every user who is going to be served with 50 Mbps is active all the time, right? Then what happens? You will get a certain number. So that let me just change this number and show you. So if you assume that this number is 100%, so the number of subscribers are going to get limited, which can be served by this 44 satellite, which is not a practical situation because everybody is not going to be active all the time. Therefore, in order to take a practical situation, I have taken a concentration factor of 20%, which means that you just over commission the system in such a way, assuming that only if there are 100 customers, only 20 are active at a time. And therefore, you will be able to serve more number of customers, right? Because if you see, the total data capacity over India per month is 1140 petabyte per month, because this is the, so this particular column is anyway not required. But what is limiting the subscriber, what is the total subscriber is limited by this number of 50 Mbps. Because if I show you this formula, and let me show you, this formula is coming from what? This 50 divided by 0.2, and then we are multiplying by this. We are also dividing this by 3520. Because if this is the throughput, the number of subscribers are going to be sharing this throughput, and this concentration factor is going to enhance the number of subscribers by 5 times. Because as I told you that all the subscribers are not active, and therefore you have got how many total subscribers are limited by the throughput, which is 352K, which is shown here, right? So I've divided with urban and rural subscribers just for the sake of doing SUC calculation. I've kept it same, but it doesn't matter. So you can hide these 2 columns. I can hide this 2 column if I want to, but I'll leave it here. Total subscriber is 352K. You understand now? Let me just repeat it. Year 2026, the number of satellites are 5500. Every satellite is capable of, the number of satellites which are visible on surface of India is 44. every satellite has got 80 Gbps capacity. The total capacity is 3520 Gbps because it's simply a multiplication. You see, this is a multiplication, 80 they multiply by this. And then if forget about this column, then the total subscriber will be supported by this capacity. And the capacity is going to be increased by 5 times because the concentration factor is 20%. And you are assuming that all the subscribers are not active at a time. So there are total subscriber in case of if you assume this unit as K means 1000, it is 352K. And as the number of satellites increase, right, and the number of visibility of satellite over India increases, this number will increase from 352K to 768K. And some analysts will make a little bit more optimistic assumption. It can be doubled. So depending upon what is these satellite numbers which are hanging on top of the sky, and how much is the throughput of a particular satellite, these numbers are going to change. But let's go with this number. It can just become double. That's all, right? Nothing is going to change much, right? So let's assume that starting here, it is 352K subscribers. And in the year 2036, it is 768K. This is my assumption. I have been a little bit more practical, but somebody may be a little bit more, you can say, not very conservative, but forecast this to in a very manner that Starlink will be able to do better, right? Now let's another thing which I am assuming here, that the maximum number of fixed broadband subscribers in India can go up to 80 million. Now this number will definitely increase as you go forward with time, but I don't think it is going to go beyond 100 million. So I have taken a reference of maximum broadband subscriber including FWA as 80 million. You can change it to 100 million depending upon what you feel. But given the tariff that we have, I don't think this number is going to go beyond 80 million. Even Gopal also made statements in various earnings call that this number is around 70 to 80 million. So the maximum number of fixed broadband subscribers, right? If you take this as a ratio and you take this number as a reference, so this number, this column, total subscriber, is a small percentage of the total number, which is 0.44% in the first year to 0.96%, even less than 1%. So maximum it will be 2%, right? Now let's talk about revenue. And what is revenue? Revenue is the ARPU, this number which I have assumed 7,000 rupees per month. And that has to be multiplied by what number? This number, 352K. And this number comes out to be, total revenue comes out to be this 2957 crores in first year and 6,129 crores in the last year. And if you take the USD dollar rates like this, you can change it depending on the million, this number comes out to be 348 million in the first year and 645 million in the last year, which is 2036. Now you have got the overall structure of the Excel sheet, and I have taken some time to go through this because it is important, right? Otherwise, what will happen is that you will not be able to appreciate. So I have also assumed an ARPU discount of 5% because my ARPU is changing with every year. So if I take this number at 0%, so you'll see these numbers are going to change and the revenues are accordingly going to change, right? But it is going to be a very marginal change. So let's take a discount of 5% and keep it there, right? Now let's talk about what will happen if this number changes. So let me just change this number to 840 rupees per month. Now, if you change this number to 840 rupees per month, then you can see that the revenues in the first year is 42 million and in the last year is 77 million. Now, friends, before I tweak these things further, let me just point out that what is the main constraint under which Starlink is operating. The main constraint is this capacity, 80 GB per satellite, and the number of satellites which are visible on the surface of India, which is 44. So this is the main constraint. So whatever you do, even if you reduce this number to 0, you can't be able to overcome this constraint, the number of satellites and the capacity. You can tweak it and you can increase it to, let's say, 100 Mbps, 100 Gbps, and maybe this number can become 50, but nothing much is going to change. So the constraint is this column and this number, okay? Now, if this is the constraint, right, and let me just make this as, and if this is the constraint and the number of subscribers are dependent upon this number and this number, which is 80 Gbps per satellite, and the number of satellites which are visible on the surface of India, then the total subscribers are going to get limited because of that. Whatever may be the ARPU that you give or whatever may be the pricing that you do, you can't cross this number. Otherwise, the people will not get the service, right? And these numbers are a fraction of the total number of broadband subscribers, the fixed broadband subscribers that we predict. You can change it to 100. Let me just change it to 100 million just to make sure that people don't complain. So if you take it 100 million, you can see the numbers, the fractions are even smaller, right? So if you have such a small fraction of satellite broadband subscribers, somebody may be a fool to price it at 840 rupees per month, given that the constraint is the number of satellites and the capacity of the satellite. Because if you see, if I price it at 840 rupees per month, the revenue that Starlink is going to make in India, it will be 42 million in year one and 77 million in year last, which is 2036, which 10th year. So do you think that Starlink is an idiot to price this at rupees 840? What purpose it is going to solve? Because you can't be increasing this number, total subscribers, to millions, 10 millions, because the number of satellites are fixed. The number of satellites which will be projected, to be circling the Earth is also not unlimited. And Earth is round, and therefore this number is also going to be not change much. You can't have the satellites stationary on India and not revolving, around the Earth. So when you have this column fixed, number of satellites column fixed, the throughput is almost 80 GB. You can make it 100 GB depending upon it. You can increase it, in a year, but it can't be disproportionately increased. Then the column, this 10th column, the total subscribers will not change. And it is a fraction of the total broadband subscriber. And therefore, the revenue that Starlink will generate will depending upon what is the starting ARPU, right? And let me just make the discount 0 so that, people say that, okay, that ARPUs will not go down further. So you have got 840 rupees per month ARPU, and what kind of revenues that Starlink is generating? In millions. And then the number of people who can afford Starlink's, plans is a very fraction of the total population. It's almost like the elite class. And why would Starlink give a plan of 840 rupees per month to the elite class? Because the local people will not even afford, because the cost of the antenna, which is hosted on the top of the roof, which is a Starlink disk antenna, is going to cost at least 35,000 rupees. So are we an idiot? Is Starlink an idiot to plan it at 840 rupees? They will definitely start with a pricing not less than 8,000 rupees, in my view, which will give them a revenue of at least 398 million in the first year and 776 million in the last year, given the dollar rate and the number of subscribers that they will be able to support, given this capacity and the number of satellite that is hanging in this on the surface of India. So I do not know why people make such, very unrealistic ARPU. Probably they have not worked the numbers. So there are various analysts. I'll show you one of the analysts which I really trust, which is IIFL Capital. And if you look at the IIFL Capital report, IIFL has been a little bit more enthusiastic in projecting the number of satellites, which I have projected. I have projected 12,000 satellites. They have projected 18,000 satellites. And I have projected 0.8% satellites. They have projected 0.7% satellites. And they have been increasing the throughput of satellites, as data throughput of satellites, right, as the time progresses. And given that, they have calculated the total capacity. They have taken the same 50 Mbps download speed, and the number of subscribers that it can serve, is same for the first year, roughly same for the first year as I have predicted, and it is 1.4 million in the last year, which is FY30. So this is probably a much more realistic report. So you can't be serving so many customers. So if you don't serve so many customers, why would you offer 840 rupees per month ARPU to do what? Now, let me just tell you one thing which they can do. They can say that, okay, I'm not going to give you 50 Mbps data. I am going to give you, let's say, 30 Mbps data, right? So if you give 30 Mbps data, then you can see that this number, if this number reduces, and if I am going to make it 840 rupees per month, because the number of download speed is now 30 Mbps. Still, the revenues are not very high. So if I make it 20 Mbps, still 840 rupees ARPU doesn't make any sense. But who is going to buy a broadband connection, Starlink satellite broadband connection with just 20 Mbps download speed? In upload speeds is anyway very, very poor. I showed you in one of my video, it starts from 5 Mbps to it goes to 25 Mbps. So if your upload speeds are so slow, and if let me make it 25 Mbps, you can see the amount of revenue that Starlink is going to make because of this whole problem about number of satellites and the throughput. So why would they offer 840 rupees per month ARPU or pricing? Why would they do that? Does it make any sense given the capacity constraint? So it does not. So all those people who are making these kind of reports, which they're calling, ETE, as India may soon get satellite data plan rupees 840 per month. I do not know from where they're coming from. See, Starlink may offer a plan of 840 rupees, but what they will do the data cap of only 50 GB or maybe 40 GB. They can do that. But still, the antenna, is 35,000 rupees somebody has to shell. So nobody will buy that plan of 840 rupees, because if he can afford 35,000 rupees, antenna or the terminal, they might have can afford an ARPU of around or pricing of around 2,000 rupees, right? Or 3,000 rupees. Still, it doesn't make any sense. If you are going to get a 25 Mbps download, this download has at least have to be 70 Mbps. And if it is going to be 70 Mbps, this number has to go up to 8,000 rupees. You see? Then only there is a respectable revenue that Starlink will make from India. So now you understand, what kind of, things that we keep on doing and what kind of speculation that we keep. And these headlines mean nothing, right? So I thought, I have done this video earlier also, and I thought that many respectable papers have carried on this. The Business Standard has carried out, this is Business Standard. India may soon get satellite data plan price at 840 rupees per month. I want to see this plan, friends, because I cannot visualize that Starlink people, the business people of Starlink will be so foolish that I am going to offer a plan of 840 rupees and make a yearly revenue so low, right? They will put a cap of 50 GB so that to prevent people to overuse it. Then only they will be able to offer an ARPU of 840 rupees to only those people who like to taste satellite broadband, doesn't have that much amount of usage. But those heavy users who want to use satellite, they can't be given, they will have unlimited data and maybe 100 Mbps speed, or there may be some network slicing that they will do to give them priority. So that is what they can do. They can come out with residential plan, residential light plan, depending upon what your needs are. If you're not a heavy user, let's say if you're going in a car and you want to carry a satellite terminal, right? If you can afford a satellite terminal and you can only use up to 50 GB, you don't use satellite for the ever, then probably this plan may get offered to you, but it is of no use for an enterprise customer or even a residential user who is using broadband for his own purpose, for entertainment or for educational purpose. It makes no sense. So there could be a plan of 840 rupees with lot of constraint for those users who are not going to use satellite broadband for the full month. Maybe they go to a forest, or maybe for excursion driving, they carry the terminal and maybe using it for 3-4 days. For that, this plan may make sense, but they will not subsidize the terminal. It's going to cost them 35,000 up to 40,000 rupees at least. So friends, probably you understand the way the pricing will work and what kind of constraints under which the pricing has to be made, and what is the critical reason why Starlink cannot offer unlimited data to those who will get 840 rupees plan per month, because of this reason: 80 Gbps throughput and the total number of satellites which are going to be visible over India at a time, right? Thank you, friends, for your time. I hope you understand this, and I'll come back with a new video next time. Thanks for listening till the end.